Welcome on into the Wolverine.com podcast. Clayton Safey here with Ant Wright, our college basketball analyst here for the Wolverine and On3 Sports, the best in college sports and recruiting. Ant, we previewed Michigan State a few weeks ago. The game didn't end up happening. We will do that as well. We'll talk about the Northwestern game, but how's it going, man?
It's going well. It's going well. 3 wins in a row for the first time this season. I like
That's
it.
right. Michigan on a little bit of a roll, although it's tough to say that after Wednesday night's win over Northwestern because of how clunky it was. You had 9 second half turnovers. You did shoot 55% from three, 50% from two, and yet it was a game down the stretch that you trailed by 7 with 5 minutes to go. Squandered an 11-point lead early in the second half. Just a weird game overall, not a ton of flow, 46 fouls. How do you characterize just how weird that game was? But at the same time, Michigan showed a lot of grit down the stretch without Hunter Dickinson, without Musa Diabate in the last 2 minutes. He got some big shots. Terrence Williams, Caleb Houston with a huge three, Devontae Jones with big free throws. And just as we expected, Jaron Falls making a game-winning assist type of play. Just weirdness all around.
And stop.
And stop. Yep. Missed his 2 free throws, but man, you just didn't expect coming into this year that he'd have a role, but he's played one over the last few games. How do you characterize what went down on Wednesday night at Chrysler?
Wild. I mean, you're talking about a game that was called very close on both ends. It wasn't just one way. There were ridiculous fouls for both teams, in my opinion. Like you said, what was it, like 46 fouls? I think they shot like 50, like 52, 50. I don't know. They had the same amount of free throw attempts, I believe, but it was like 50-something free throws for the game, which is ridiculous. If you were to tell me that Michigan had a home game and they shot what was like 55% from the floor, 66% from three, they win by 15 or 20 points. But there was absolutely no flow to this game. Not a lot of shot attempts because there were so many fouls. I mean, it was hard to watch, but this is a game that a road team usually wins because if they can muck it up enough, if they can have like a stoppage of play a lot, if they can slow the game down, that usually hurts the home team because it takes the crowd out of it because they can't cheer for a long period of time, and then they go up by 7, right? They go up by 7 late. Like this isn't beginning of the second. Like this was like with like 5-6 minutes left. And I was like, yo, these cats are in trouble, and guys just kept grinding and they got stops when they needed, and they hit big shots. Say what you want about Terrence Williams and his struggles or his consistency. That dude's got big nuts. Like that dude wants to make and take big shots. He has always been ready. This goes back to the beginning of last year. He is always ready. He's always ready to make big plays. He's always ready to take big shots. He had a huge shot, I believe, to get the game down to 2. I want to say, I think it was a 5-point game, and he hit a big 3 to either tie it or put it down to like 2, and that was huge. And then you have a situation where in the first half, Brandon Johns loses his shoe on one end of the court, and instead of just forgetting his shoe and just playing with just one, on one foot pretty much, and being there on the 3-pointer because his man made the 3-point shot, he spent about 2 seconds worrying about his shoe. In that 2 seconds, Northwestern zoomed up the court in a 5-on-4. Robbie Barron hits a 3, and then Brandon's like fixing his shoe still. And Juwan, if you didn't see his face,
yeah, it was hand on head
language.
Yeah,
it was beyond mad.
It was disbelief.
Like disgusted.
He
was just like, "Yo, get out the game, my guy." You know what I mean? And
yeah, I wanted to ask you about that real quick. Has that ever happened to you? I mean, the shoe coming off. Obviously, you just throw it to the side.
No, my shoe's always been on.
Always been on.
My shoe's always been. I always double knot.
Remember when Nick Stauskas threw his shoe into the Duke crowd?
Into the Duke. He said, "Forget about it, yo."
Right.
I
You get
know,
that's what you
yeah.
have to
So
do. You get back. I couldn't believe it. The crowd was there was a little bit of a rustle. Like people were like, "What is he doing?" And then they get the
yeah, you
5 on 4.
can't do that. If you
No,
do that, it's got to be you're on offense. You
for
can't do
sure.
that on defense. You cannot do that. And I think Jawan deserves a lot of praise and respect for what happened when Hunter and Musa went out. I thought for sure Johns was going to go back in, but he put in faults. And that told me, he was like, I would rather lose this game than play you another minute tonight just to drive a point home. It's like, we're not going to play like that. You need to understand that, like your shoe isn't bigger than this possession. Like half of you is much better than zero of you, and the fact that he was willing to put in Jace as well to rebound, I think that drove a point home. And I'm not saying that's just going to like completely flip this season. This season is more steady, right? But for the future of this program, you can look back at this point and say, hey, Jawan expects a certain type of respect for the game. He expects a certain type of basketball IQ and a want to win the game as well. So I respect
No
that
doubt.
1,000%. 1,000%.
Okay, and that's an interesting perspective, I think, from a former player. You were right on the stat. I think 67% from three. I was getting my 55% from what Michigan is shooting over the last 3 games. They've completely come to life here from deep, which has opened up, I think, the floor for the inside guys, Hunter and Musa. Caleb's hitting his threes. We saw Eli hit a couple last night. Good to see him get a nice stretch there with that steal and one and play a solid game overall. The defense has been there from him. Devontae shooting a good percentage from three. He's not going to be a volume guy because he can't create his own, but you're looking at a team that is starting to shoot it better. Terrence Williams is part of that too. He had the stretch against Indiana and then the big one last night. Take me through, because this is something we talked about. Spacing, early on in the season has been such a big issue. Now that the shots are falling, tell me what you've seen in terms of the space there and how that opens everything else up.
Well, Northwestern did something interesting. What most teams really haven't had to do is that they stopped doubling Hunter because guys were hitting shots. Like that's the result, right? Now he doesn't have a double. Now Hunter can't pick you apart with guys cutting. Guys are doing a really good job on post feeds. They're starting to move. They're not just sitting there and watching. They're either cutting off his top or bottom shoulder. Guys are cutting from like the backside. They're setting some backside screens. They're moving up. They're moving down. They're keeping the defense engaged. So if Hunter goes into his move, he goes into his move. If there's a cutter, there's not another defender jamming that cut. Why? Because that guy just hit 2 threes and he doesn't want to be a couple steps closer to the ball, knowing that his man shooting maybe 39% on the year and just hit a couple threes earlier. Making shots helps 1,000%. Making shots helps. And when your better shooters who are higher in volume are making shots, that also helps. I think Caleb and T. Will, I think he can shoot a little bit more because he does shoot a very high percentage. I think he's at 30. He was at 39.3% coming in, and he was 1 for 2. So his percentage probably goes up a bit here. Then you have Caleb, who was shooting, I believe, 35 or 36 coming in, and he shot very well last night. So that's going to jump. I think those guys are also freeing up Eli because now they're not just focused on stopping him. They have Devontae being a bit more aggressive, especially in the pick and roll, getting in the paint a little bit more. You saw that when he kind of took over the game there when Musa and Hunter went out. He really turned the corners and just was very aggressive. I think he should start doing that when those guys are in the game. I think that's going to free up those guys even more. And it helps guys like Musa where you still don't really know where he wants to operate in terms of his spacing, because like his spacing kind of interrupts Hunter a little bit. But the fact that Hunter is shooting so well from the perimeter, this year, that's helping him out too. So um, they're playing they're playing a little bit different. They're playing a little bit more confident in each other. They're kind of understanding their roles now. And I think that's the most important thing. I don't think guys understood their roles early on. But now guys know exactly what they expect from themselves and their teammates.
I think that's a great point. I was talking with the guys, Anthony Broom and Chris Ballas at the game last night. We were saying, man, everybody is starting to know their role more, and now guys are doing like one or two things that they do really well, and they know that they can. Hey, if it's not there, we can give it up. It's nice luxury to have a guy like Hunter where you can just kind of throw it into him if you have any doubts about anything at all. But you're starting to feel that a little bit when you mention those cuts and everything that they're doing. I've noticed that as well. Hunter will get it in the post, and then the guy will come flying by back door. There's a couple times where he just hands it right off and things like that. Is that a product of now having some more spacing, or is that a product of Jawan and that staff really, making some adjustments?
Jawan and the staff. If you go back and look at the Rutgers game, Hunter was feasting, but if you go back and look at some of those shots that he had to make and moves, he had three guys on him. Like, does that happen if guys are cutting and moving and being more active off the ball? Probably not. And I think that they're like, hey, look, we're just gonna, for like an hour straight, Hunter, all we're gonna do is give you the ball, and these guys are just gonna have to learn how to cut off you, what works, what doesn't work, when to screen, how to screen, and then the defense, they're gonna trap you every now and then based off of calls off the baseline coach. They're gonna trap you off one dribble, off two dribbles. They're gonna trap you if you get to a certain area. They're not going to trap you, and they're going to switch things up. And I think, just playing basketball once he gets the ball, there are no plays. When Hunter gets the ball, there are no plays. You become a basketball player. He's going to do his thing, but Hunter's done a really good job at not being over aggressive when he doesn't need to be, and he doesn't really force. And because of that, that's when you see him picking teams apart with really good passes. Coming into the game, I believe he had 4 assists in the Indiana game, and I believe he had 6 in the Maryland game
against Maryland.
Like, that's huge. That's big. And that's just another wrinkle that opposing teams have to talk about in their defensive scouting. The more you have to give another team to scout, the better, because now they can't just focus on 2 concepts. Now they have to focus on 5 or 6 things. And these are guys between 18 and 23 years old. They're not going to remember all these things, especially after the first 5 minutes.
Yep, I think that's super important as well. When you look at Michigan State, shifting gears a little bit, they've lost 2 of 3, including to that Northwestern team. So you got to keep that in perspective if you're a Michigan fan. And also you got to think, a month ago, they were probably losing that game by double digits. They were able to pull it out last night. So there's been a lot of growth, as we talked about, for some of the reasons we just outlined. But Michigan State loses to Northwestern a couple Saturdays ago. Really nice win at Wisconsin. I know there was no Tyler Wall for the Badgers, but still a good win there. And then you lose at Illinois without Kofi Coburn and Andre Curbelo, but tough place to play, that type of thing. The thing I've noticed over the last few games, including the Wisconsin win for Michigan State, is that their wings really aren't getting a ton of offensive production. When you look at Max Christie and Gabe Brown, which is basically, I feel like, the key to their offense. They don't have a scoring point guard. Those guys are both really good passers, but they're more passers to those wing guys. And then Marcus Bingham's not a great post-up big guy on the offensive end, though he is a great defender. What have you seen from Michigan State in this little mini stretch here? Turnovers continue to be a problem. Tom Izzo's complaining about those. I know he was not happy with their physicality against Northwestern as well, so he probably got out the shoulder pads and all of that during practice. But what have you noticed from Michigan State lately? It's funny how, man, when we were previewing the last game that would have happened, Michigan had lost 2 straight, whatever. Michigan State had won 8 in a row. I'm not saying the script has completely flipped, but it feels like this is going to be more of a game potentially this time, even though it's in East Lansing.
It could be, and it's one of those games where it's going to come down to who executes in the last 5-6 minutes of the second half. Um, Michigan State, they are they're going to beat you by committee or lose by committee. That's kind of how they play. They have multiple guys that are averaging like within like 3 points of each other. It's like it's so wild. It's so wild. They don't have a and they don't have a like a all Big Ten first team guy. They don't have someone who is going to just go out there and just destroy you night in and night out. Now, I do think that could be Malik Hall, but he hasn't been given the keys really. I've seen him take over some games, man. He had one game in the Bahamas where he just destroyed. I think it was against UConn, I want to say, but he was just going nuts in one of those games. He was just going berserk. He had another game earlier this year where like he was doing his thing against Illinois. They were struggling to score, and they went with Malik down the stretch, getting Malik the ball and just letting him just operate. But I can't wait to watch him versus Musa. Musa is I said this last night. I'm like, look, I don't think there's a better true freshman defender in the country. Which is saying a lot. Moose's defense, he's so fast. He's so fast. He's so quick. His arms are very long. He's what, 6'10, 6'11. He's athletic. Yeah. Very tough defender. It's that is going to be a matchup that I can't wait to watch. And then you have like Max Christie and Gabe. Max Christie and Gabe are very similar to Max has a lot more in his bag. And I'm surprised that he hasn't shown more off the dribble. But like right now, him and Gabe operate similar to how Caleb does, where it's, two dribbles max type of deal. They're going to be more jump shooters, except Gabe and Max are more athletic than Caleb for sure. But in terms of how they get their buckets are very, very similar. And then you have Tyson Walker, transfer from Northeastern. Very good defender. It's going to be interesting to see how many offensive fouls Devontae Jones gets just from pushing off. But I'm also going to be interested to see if Michigan can get Devontae in some really good leverage plays against Walker, because Walker is going to be smaller. Walker's about 5'10", 5'11 maximum, and he's about 160. Devontae's all of 205. He's a big dude. So getting him on Devontae's hip is going to be interesting. AJ Hogarth goes a million miles per hour. When's the last time Michigan took a charge? Do you remember?
Man,
I can't remember the last time they took a charge. AJ Hogarth is a guy that you can.
They got to take one, yeah,
1 to 2 turnovers just from taking charges, because he is a bull. 6'3", is about 215, 220 maybe, depends on when he weighs in. He is a bull. He is an absolute bull, but he is also crazy fast. A bit out of control at times, and I think Michigan is going to have to take charges against him. And then you have Joey Hauser. That dude,
I like Musa on him too when that's the match.
I do like Musa on him. Joey is a bit crafty. He is a little bit craftier than Malik. And Joey is just really going to hit you in that spot up game and offensive rebounding. He's not really going to get you off the dribble, off the bounce as much. Malik is much more of a 3-level scorer, and but that 4 spot is going to be a very interesting battle, 100%.
Mm-hmm. And this is interesting because I've talked to multiple people about this matchup who have said multiple different things, but Michigan State, in terms of kind of on the wing and in the backcourt when it comes to matchups for Michigan, like, do you throw Eli on Max Christie and let Caleb guard Gabe Brown, or do you flip that? I mean, Eli's given up size either way, and Gabe Brown's taller at 6'8" than Max Christie is at 6'6", but he might be, I don't know. What do you do there? Do you go Caleb on Max Christie?
They're very similar. They're very similar. You probably go with Eli on Christie, and you probably go with Caleb on Gabe.
We'll see it
But
both, though.
neither are going to really beat you off the bounce. And Izzo doesn't really utilize his wings like that either. He's more of like, hey, point guard is going to be the distributor, the creator, and the wings are going to be the benefiter of those actions.
Mm-hmm. That'll be something to watch. Tom Izzo's on the screen for the people watching on YouTube. Please subscribe if you are. You played against Tom Izzo coach teams, and everyone talks about how, man, he's in the summer, he's working on his Michigan scouting report. He's working on his Michigan scouting report in downtime during the season. Did you notice anything when you guys would play Michigan State that, they were scouting you guys better than other teams? And I know it probably went the other way too. John Beilein had some really, really good, game plans against the Spartans as well. Just your thoughts on how well, I guess, both these teams scout each other, because it is one of those games where you feel like the tendencies, but Izzo especially seems to have always one eye on Ann Arbor.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty. Here's what I'll say. I'm not sure if it was done on purpose, but I remember they would force certain players middle, and certain players were forced baseline, which is weird, because in order to do that, the whole defense has to know.
They got to know
how the ball defender is guarding. That's really intricate. Like, that's really intricate stuff. He's very good at scouting. He's very good at understanding a team's tendencies. He's very good at making some of your strengths your weaknesses too. Elite in preparation. There's a reason why he's been to 8 Final Fours, 8 or 9. There's a reason behind that. It's because going into those games, hey, maybe he's not the more talented team, but he understands who the not tough guys are on the other team and who they can attack. So if you're not tough coming into this game, you are going to be exposed 100%. And they know when to muck it up, when to play finesse. They have an identity, and they usually have that every single year around this time. And yeah, I mean, there is a reason why dude is in the Hall of Fame. Like, he didn't accidentally get there, So this is going to be a huge chess match between Jawan and staff and Izzo and his staff for sure. But what I have seen is if you can break his initial scouting, then you break his counter. That's when Michigan State kind of crumbles. But they're still able to play tough and play hard. That gets them through a lot of times. But you really see a lot of their faults and a lot of their deficiencies once you're able to get to that level.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. When you talk about the Breslin Center, and I think we might have talked about this again on our last Michigan State preview, or no, we probably didn't, because it was supposed to be a home game. So let's talk about the craziest thing maybe you've heard there from their fans. I mean, what is it like as a player being there? Does that noise affect you a ton? And how big is it in your mind that Michigan got to face the Assembly Hall crowd and, was able to overcome that, having that confidence going into this game?
That Assembly Hall crowd this year was pretty good. I mean, you're talking about an Indiana team that went into that game 12-0 at home, top 10 at home in defensive efficiency, and Michigan shredded them. The Izzone when I was there is a lot different than the Izzone now. I joke around with Michigan State fans, and they agree that like this new Gen Z Izzone is not the same. It's not the same. Too worried about taking pictures and being there rather than calling out somebody about their mom. You know, um,
They're not doing their scouting. Izzo
they're
would be
not doing
pissed
their
at him.
scouting. You know,
Yeah.
they're there for the they're there for the clout. They're there for the clout and not doing their job. But oh, the Breslin is still the Breslin. It's still going to get super loud. But it's not the same as when I was there. I know that for a fact. It's not the same. Not even close. Not even close. I couldn't even hear anything going on. Like, dude, oh, man. So like Beeline would be like Beeline or like Amaker would be saying something like 10 feet away from me, and I couldn't hear it. I couldn't hear anything, any sound, any enunciation of what they just said. So I know like you kind of lose yourself on the court, and you've got to have really good communication. Really good communication.
No doubt. Last thing, let's kind of break down what we think is going to happen in this game. How do you think Michigan is going to handle not only the environment but Michigan State? I mean, we can talk all we want about losing 2 out of 3 or whatever. They're not playing as well, and those two wings aren't hitting their shots in the last couple games. But this game, you usually rise up. We've seen, like, remember in 2013, like Michigan was struggling down the stretch there. They went 6-6 heading into the Big Ten or the national tournament, but they were able to beat Michigan State at home because it's just that game was just separate basically of everything else. We've also seen great Michigan teams like that one go into Michigan State and lose by 23 points. So kind of anything can happen in this type of game. But how do you expect this Michigan team, which is much improved from a few weeks ago, to fare against a Michigan State team that is good, near the top of the Big Ten, but isn't invincible by any stretch?
Yeah. So like Walker is heated.
He's going off.
Yeah. Oh man. That's so funny. Okay. Yeah, so like one thing is for sure. Walker Hunter Hunter cannot wait for this matchup. I think Hunter has had this matchup circled for a long time. I think he sees the tweets about Bingham going to put him in a trash can, or he's like on Bingham's shoulders and all that stuff. And, Bingham has been one of the better defenders in the league this year. I mean, you're talking about, I'll put him at number 2 or number 3, probably number 2 behind Trent Frazier, in my opinion, in terms of being lockdown defenders. Um, but,
toughest matchup Hunter's going to face since Coloco.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And one thing that Bingham doesn't have that Coloco did was a little bit of weight. And I'm going to be interested to see how Izzo is going to guard him. Where are they going to send their traps? Are they going to send traps? Are they going to leave Bingham on an island? They probably noticed that Hunter was much better getting trapped than he was in one-on-one against Northwestern. So they may one-on-one him initially. I think Hunter has to abuse that matchup, stay out of foul trouble. They can't let their shooters get off either, and they got to keep the guards out the paint. Michigan hasn't been great this year. They haven't been great turning teams over either. Something that Michigan State does at a very high clip. And they have to, and they're just going to have to figure out, just like against Northwestern, how to just will this team to a victory. They're not going to win this game pretty. Like, this isn't going to be a game like against Indiana, where I think Indiana played a bit soft. Michigan State will not play soft at home. Not in this game. Never, ever.
No.
As long as Izzo's there, ever. This game is not for the meek, the weak. You've got to be ready to go. You got to be ready to go. Everybody. Even Johns, if he's out the doghouse, we'll see if he plays that game, and possibly his last time going to East Lansing.
Ever.
Yeah, ever. It's going to be.
He'll be back when he's visiting, but
Yeah,
He wants to be able to
unless
walk
he like
around there, and have the
unless
bragging
he grad
rights. So,
transfers there or to Ohio State or to like Indiana or something like maybe he'll go back. But um, this is it's gonna be a big game for like Kobe Buffkin. What's gonna happen with him and Jay Akins? There's a lot of
yep,
chirping about that. And Jaden Akins has had a bigger role much earlier
for sure.
than Kobe has, and he's probably more set in his role, being a hustle guy, a rebounder, a shot maker at times. He had like 10 or 11 the other night that helped them beat, I believe, was that the Wisconsin game where him and Davison were going back and forth, I believe.
I think he played pretty well in that game. I don't have the
I
numbers.
think he had like 10 or 11 at
Okay.
least against them. And who is going to step up? Like last game, like that was Jaron Fultz. Like Jaron Fultz comes in, big assist, big stop, basically a 5-point swing. Then you have against Indiana, like how good was Hunter? How good was T. Will and Johns in that first half?
Yep.
And Maryland was pretty much everybody was just getting their licks in. Who's going to be that guy against Michigan State? And Michigan State is still playing for a Big Ten championship. And if you haven't checked, I believe I'm not sure if the Indiana Penn State game changed anything, but Michigan is either like 6th or 7th right now in the league, which is nuts, which is absolutely insane. And part of that is because they didn't play Purdue and Michigan State. I get
right.
that, but I don't care. I'm just looking at what the standings say right now. What the standings say right now, I believe they're 6th or 7th, and they're 2 games back from first. 2 games back from first, which is nuts.
Michigan State a half game off the lead of Illinois at 7-2. Michigan State at 6-2. So yeah, you're right. They're contending there, for sure.
Not saying they'll get there, but these are just facts. These are just facts right now.
They are. Before we go, I just want to remind people that we are brought to you by Manscaped today, our favorite sponsor here at thewolverine.com. We'll have to get them to send you some products as they've been sending us, and they've been great. So cheers to 2022 and resolutions that you can actually keep. What's that?
The wife will like that.
There, exactly. How about having clean and shiny balls all year round? Our sponsors at Manscaped are here to save your balls this year and make them drop into 2022 the cleanest and sexiest ever. This is crazy, Ant. Set your first New Year's resolution with good intentions and join the 4 million men worldwide. It's crazy. A couple months ago, it was 3 million men. It's 4 million men worldwide now who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer, manscaped.com. Head over there. Use the promo code 20GoBlue for 20% off and free shipping. A great offer there. So that is 20GOBLUE. What a read. I think they're doing it just to make us laugh and probably just, have a couple outtakes on it. But best product out there. Do you have a final score prediction on Michigan State, or is that not your type of thing?
I don't like doing them.
What's your gut, though, on who's going to win, I guess?
I don't like doing that either.
Okay.
It depends on who shows up, because like you can talk about all the statistics that back up stuff, but it comes down to who shows up and who has the best game plan, who counters to the other's game plan, who's ready to play. There's just so many factors involved. I think Izzo and Juwan are they 2-2? Are they 500?
Yeah, 2-2.
Are they 500? Okay, so they're 500 coming into this game. You could say Michigan State's lost 2 of the last 3, but if you watch those games, like Illinois didn't score in the last 32. They're lucky that they escaped with the win.
Right.
If you look at that Northwestern game, Bingham misses free throws that would go into overtime. So like it's like, and the Illinois game, they missed the free throw to go into overtime. And those are just games that show up as a L, but it's really like, hey, it's not like they were down multiple possessions and they were just getting worked. Just
Right.
like that Northwestern team, like they came into last night, 5 of their 6 losses by 8 points or less. By 8 points or less. They got routed against Purdue, which, they're Purdue. They're like a legit top 10 team. But
Hmm.
outside of that, like they've had 5 out of 6 losses came by 8 points or less. Like they're a tough, tough team. And they're like Scott Frost and Nebraska. They're going to keep it close, but
Yeah.
something's going to happen where they just lose at the end, right? But this Michigan State game, you got to throw everything out the window, and it's going to come down who was the tougher team, uh, who rebounds better. Um, I'm going to look at rebounding. I'm going to look at assists, and I'm going to look at the 3-point percentage. I think the winner of 2 out of those 3 are going to win this game.
Okay. Well, we'll revisit that afterwards. But yeah, great stuff. Great breakdown. For more of Ant's, analysis, head to his Twitter. It's Ant Wright. Is that the correct
It's Aaron,
Twitter handle? Yeah. And then over at the Wolverine.com, videos, written breakdown as well. So all over there. $1 gets you a year at the Wolverine.com premium subscription. Just $1. It's nothing. So go and do that as well. You can join us on the message board, get all the premium content, and we'll see everyone over there. Enjoy the game on Saturday.
That's like 8 or 9 cents a month.
Exactly.
Go to your couch. You can find that. Just go to your couch, guy. Go to your couch.
Exactly. All right. We'll see everyone next time.